Hello everyone. So over the past year or so, me and my fiance have been working on creating a new game. And over the summer I've been kind of diving into actually setting up the functionality of this game. So you'll kind of see from a few of the clips I'm about to show you, we got kind of far with development, and then we were kind of running into issues where certain mechanics were kind of working about like 95%, but weren't really like fully working. Like they were kind of working most of the time, but then we would have issues where, certain characters wouldn't do certain things the way that we'd want them to, and like we'd kind of run into issues. So since then, I've stripped the game back, basically almost starting kind of from scratch, to try and implement these different mechanics in a way where they work 100% every time. Now, of course, with any game, you're never going to stop like every single bug, but we just want to make sure that, it works enough that you can actually play the game, you can enjoy it, and so forth. So the game that we are making is called Plan B, and it's an RTS type game where you control a swarm of bees, and you have to create your hive and kind of harvest resources, fight enemies, etc. Now, I don't want to dive into like all the details of the game because A, it's still quite early in development, and B, we want some parts to be a surprise. But the main mechanic that I've been working on for the moment is this one right here. So the main way that we want our game to work is that you have two main locations. You have the hive and you have the forest. And the way that the game works is that these bees, or these units, need to travel between the hive and the forest. Now, the player, you, can also travel between the hive and the forest, and you do that via a button on the screen. So you just hit a button and it will teleport you kind of between the two locations. And we want to make sure that the units, or the bees, understand where they need to go in relation to wherever the player is. So for example, if I am in the forest and the bee is also in the forest, if I click to tell the bee to go somewhere, that bee is just going to go there, right? It's not going to try and travel anywhere else. It's just going to go to my location because we are both within the same area. However, if there is a bee in the hive, but me, the player, is in the forest, and I click somewhere in the forest, I want that bee to then travel out the hive and then travel into the forest. Now, just for testing purposes and for demonstration purposes, I have put those two locations just side by side on a map here. However, in reality, these could potentially be two different levels that are then streamed into one kind of main level. So this starts to get kind of confusing, so please bear with me if you are not a user of Unreal and you have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically, these are going to be two completely separate locations, and I need the bees to be able to travel between the two. The main reason for this is optimization. So if both of these environments are like loaded just 24/7 all the time, that can start to hinder performance, and really they don't need to be, because the player, as I mentioned before, is going to switch between these two. So you're only ever going to see one of these locations at a time. So there's no reason to have everything loaded all at once. So to get on with what I have so far and to get on with the demonstration, I've essentially set up a behavior tree to control these units. Now, if you don't know, a behavior tree is a way to kind of give these units like a brain, and it helps them to think about what it is that they are doing. So this is an example of a behavior tree. So you can see that we have this kind of empty tree. This represents the brain of the unit, or the bee. So from this we can then help it to make decisions. So for example, if I come off of here and I grab a sequence, this means that the bee will perform a sequence of events. So I can drag off of here and we can say, for example, find random location. We can then come off here again and I can say move to, and then we can drag off one more, and this time I'm going to grab wait. So once we've located a random location, we're then going to move to that location, and then we're going to wait for 5 seconds. And then once it has done that, the task is then complete. The task will then go back to the root, so we always return to the root when a task is complete, and then it will just filter down the system again. So in this instance, if I hit play, we have got a series of units. There are 100 units here. They are represented by these little spheres with a grass texture on them, just for now. I didn't want to get bogged down in setting up the character meshes or anything like that. I have the meshes for the bees. I just haven't brought them in yet because I really wanted to make sure that this was working first. So we have 100 units here. Now I can select them by just clicking and dragging. And if I click, you can see they will all go to the location that I assign. If I grab all of these guys as well and click, just so we get them all together. So there we go. There is 100 bees, and they just go to wherever I click. Now down here, there is a little cone. That represents the hive exit. So obviously we don't want the bees to just suddenly teleport between the two levels, right? We want them to travel towards an exit so that they actually look like they are leaving the hive and going somewhere else. Likewise, over here in the forest, I have another cone. So this cone represents the hive entrance. So basically, this would look like a little beehive within the forest. And I've got some clips on the screen now just to kind of show you like how the system potentially will look once it's fully implemented. So the challenge is to get these 100 bees to successfully teleport between these two levels and successfully know where it is that they're going. And I think I've figured that out. So as you can see over here, I've got a button, and this button sets whether or not we, the player, are in the hive or whether we are not. And you can see there's a few of them that have gone already. So the system is not fully set up. I haven't fully fixed every single bug. It's still a work in progress. But you'll notice if I go into the forest and I click, they will all funnel into the teleporter, and then they will teleport out the other side, as you can see. And there we go, and then they've all popped out the other side. I have them all here. I can still grab them. I can still move them around, like so. And likewise, if I then teleport back to the hive and I click, you see that then they all pop out and they've teleported between the two. This seems like such a simple thing, and in reality it is, but it's so complicated to set this up because there are so many factors that can potentially influence these units getting teleported, because sometimes they get in the way of each other, sometimes they can push each other out of the way, sometimes, you know, there can be complications that arise that prevent them from being able to successfully teleport. So this is one of the reasons why I've kind of stripped this back to basics, because the way that I did it before was like with a literal teleporter. Like there was a collision box, and basically when they go in the box, that box was then set to teleport them. And the problem is it just didn't always work, because the bees, as I said, knock each other out of the way. They get in each other's way. You know, they don't always successfully enter that box, and that's a big problem. So doing it this way with the behavior tree is much more efficient, because at least now we know that they're going to enter and exit as they should. So you can see here that in action. So they enter the teleporter over here, and they get spat out the teleporter over there. And that is exactly what we want. Now it is not perfect. I still need to fine tune the system. So please stay tuned for more devlogs as we kind of update this and build upon it, and we slowly start to create an RTS game.